Hello, Capstone students. This week we have a discussion board about legal challenges for entrepreneurial ventures. As you all know, one of the courses you took as part of your business management program or accounting program was business law. The purpose of it is to make sure business students understand the complications of issues related to legal issues and to understand the problems and liabilities that might arise because of legal problems. Now, here, these are some questions about legal challenges for entrepreneurs. Here you see it's written. Of course, I won't talk about all the issues here because I want to leave room for students to give their comments. Just legal, when they talk about legal structure, sometimes, usually, they refer to, do you want to open a sole proprietorship? Is it a good idea to have it as a partnership or as a small corporation known as S corporation or C corporation, the regular corporation, or as a limited LLC, limited liability company? Please note that each one of these, is way different from the others in terms of, liabilities and the ethical responsibilities. Therefore, this is an area that you would like to concentrate and think what it means if you want to to get help to go and read about these issues. You want to look at ChatGPT to say what it says, go ahead and read. That's okay, read. But get the idea from your own opinion, from what you learn from ChatGPT, but then put it on your own word and on your own analysis. That way, to make sure you are contributing to the discussion board from your own judgment, and a point of view. I remember at one time a lawyer had gone to ChatGPT, and sometimes lawyers, when to go to court, sometimes they have to find a reference for what they are saying. The lawyer had gone to the ChatGPT, and ChatGPT had found some references for that lawyer, and he had gone in front of the judge and had argued and had presented his findings and from ChatGPT. And as you all know, this AI has some concepts of called hallucination. And then in this concept, they hallucinate, which means that they can't come up with the right answer. And finally, they found out, and the court found out, and it became such an embarrassment for that lawyer. And therefore, you have to know what we get from sometimes from AI might not be necessarily 100% accurate. I strongly recommend students use AI at their work to as long as it is permitted, and as employers want to get the job done. They don't care where the student getting his or her, as long as the job is done, as long as the employers are making money legally, professionally, what, they don't care. They want things to be done, and therefore that's the expectation. Therefore, I highly recommend, the more students learn about AI, the better it is. And the college is offering a certificate in hopefully this coming fall in AI, artificial intelligence. And therefore, the more you know about AI and you can apply it, would be the better it is. And regularity risk. And therefore, as you know, some businesses are highly regulated and some are less regulated. And therefore, many entrepreneurs should be familiar with these regulations if let's say you want to start your own financial institution, your bank, starting a bank is not easy. It has a lot of regulations. Therefore, you have to be familiar as an entrepreneur when you start. You go to, you don't know, you can go and ask accountants, lawyers, go to ChatGPT, get as much information as you can. And then legal compliance can protect you financially, which is very important. If lawsuits keep coming, and lawyers, as you know, are very expensive, and your mistakes, suddenly you might end up paying fees, and you have I made a mistake one time. I had to I contributed to my health saving account by mistake. I didn't know. I thought that one of the ways that people contribute to their health saving account, which is known as HSA, is that you if you have a high deductible insurance, suppose these days I think it is $1,600. Every year you can contribute up to around $4,000, $5,000 to your HSA, which I highly recommend. Know what it is, and maybe I ask ChatGPT to include this in this discussion to make you familiar with HSA. Also, that's one of the best investments that the students can make. Contribute to their HSA. That is something that you have to, and I will ask ChatGPT to explain it, and I email it to you all with this email. And then again, we go to the next question. How do startups often underestimate legal risks? That's correct. And one guess I have is that because entrepreneurs might not be as familiar as the legal risks. Let's not forget that not every entrepreneur is a business student. Not every entrepreneur has taken, business law. Therefore, some people with a different background, end up, starting their own businesses, and they end up with, legal risks. People start suing them. The government sues them, and the cops will show up. The IRS will show up, and it can become employees suddenly file lawsuits. And you all know how, you have read it in business classes, that there are many legal risks. The people see the opportunity, see your business is successful, everybody tries to make money out of you, and therefore that is the benefit of knowing about legal risks. That means they underestimate legal risks. And also the entrepreneurs, before we talked, they underestimate their expenses and they overestimate their revenues, and that will cause the failure in many businesses. When does failure to comply become both an ethical and legal issues? And that is correct. Therefore, you have to know what you are doing when you start your business, find out about their legal issues, and also we emphasized a lot on legal issues, but the ethical is important. When we say ethical, is that sometimes if you do something unethical, you might not be taken to court because you haven't violated any legal issues, any legal, but when it is ethical, means that it's a social issue, social problem, that the people usually do not, get involved. The ethical problems sometimes can harm your business significantly. The people will lose if they find out that the business is not working ethically. You will lose the trust of customers, suppliers, employees. Therefore, the more ethical you are, the better it is. The more good, some organizations, some companies, buy. I suppose we want you to understand the issue of insurance, importance of insurance for the businesses, because that's one way to keep yourself, away from, to protect yourself. But having insurance itself doesn't mean that you are protected, because if some people get involved in, let's say a business has used fraud against the IRS, no matter how much legal protection you have, but because there are other issues involved. Therefore, we want you to understand the importance issues related to legal problems, issues related to insurance, issues related to compliance. Now that I discussed, these are something that you all will be discussing on the discussion board this week. And I said I am going to send something to about HSA. I want you to understand about it. I'll ask ChatGPT and I will ask to come up with the answer. Read about it. That HSA is not necessarily part of our discussion for this week, but those who are smart people will definitely, if they are eligible to contribute to their HSA, they will. And one time, by mistake, I had contributed. I was not supposed to do that. I contributed 3 years in a row, and then after 3 years, suddenly I found out, oh my God, I am not eligible to contribute, and now I had to go back and sell because I had put the money $5,000 for 5 years in a row for $15,000. I had not paid taxes to the IRS for 15 years, and it was an honest mistake. What I did was that I contacted the company that I had invested the money for my HSA. I told them what happened. I sold whatever I had. I had invested in good mutual funds, and then $15,000 fortunately had gone and had become $17,500. That means I had made $2,500 profit on it. But I had to sell everything and tell the IRS. For there is a form that I had to fill out, and by doing so, I filled out the form. Now I had to pay taxes on which, of course, at the beginning I had to pay, but I paid taxes. Then IRS was telling me, I had to pay 8% interest on the money that I was supposed to pay to the IRS. Let's say on $15,000, my taxes were around, for example, $2,500, which I had to pay it up front. I had not paid it. At the end, I paid the IRS that $2,500. Then I had to pay 8% interest for the money of the IRS for that $2,500 that I kept it. And then you imagine that for 1 year, for one of them was from 3 years ago, 3 years before, I had to pay, let's say, 800. I paid 8% on that for the first year, 8% for the second year, 8% for the third year. Then I had to pay also, I think, 10% penalty, and then I had to pay the same thing to the state as well, because when you make a mistake, I had to go back and fill out the state forms. Fortunately, what I didn't go to accountant, which I wish I had gone. But anyhow, I didn't go. I didn't want to pay money to the accountants. I filled out those forms, and I had made some minor mistakes here and there. Fortunately, the IRS corrected that for me, and they asked me on that mistake. In fact, I had given more money to the IRS than that I was supposed to give. Well, based on the calculation, I miscalculated. In fact, they sent me a minor check. But fortunately, because I didn't lose as much, because all the penalties that I paid and all the interest that I paid, because I had made $2,700 and $2,500 on the investment that I had made. That $2,500 covered the losses and the interest, and overall I didn't lose anything and I didn't gain anything. But at least the people who I had a friend who didn't invest wisely, she had the same problem. She had to sell. Now she has to pay it is $1,500 out of her pocket. The reason I gave you this example is that the more you know about regulations and about it was my fault that I became lazy, didn't go and check to see how much it was my insurance, was a high deductible insurance or not. I was thinking it was, but in fact it was not. My deductible was for 500, the one that my employer, the college, is giving me. Therefore, another thing is that I want to say is that the people who work legally, their work, their jobs, what they do are they pay attention to legal issues. They do better than those who don't pay any attention to legal issues, and those who pay attention to ethical do better. Particularly in the areas of taxes, some people think it is smart not to pay, taxes to the IRS. Find, the best way is, in fact, IRS wants you to, find legal ways to save money to pay less taxes. It doesn't want you to do illegal ways of not paying taxes. Therefore, it's very important to understand ethical and responsibilities of an entrepreneur. And I will send you information about HSA. And those of you who know what it is, those of you who are not using it, it is called triple tax saving. Triple tax saving, I will ask ChatGPT to explain it to you.